Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Lindsay Davis with Spartan Invest, and I'm so happy to introduce Dan Zitofsky with us. He is a longtime investor and has literally mastered the art of passive income. He is author, right here, I got it right here, of Passive to Prosperous, and obviously this is a great read. You can get it on Amazon if you have the opportunity. And he talks about flipping. He's got, what is it, Dan, 650 rental properties. You've done like over 1,000 owner-occupant flips, and I mean, more than 1,000 private money projects, right?
Right. And a lot of seller financing to investors, that kind of thing. So everything kind of geared towards passive income is why we get along so well.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I just wanted to take some time to honestly get your take on everything. I mean, as everybody knows, this pandemic has really taken over, the country and the world. And obviously those more affected are the people in our healthcare system. So we really, a huge shout out to them and thank them so much for what they're doing right now during this time. But obviously a pandemic like this is going to affect, the economy, and the violent fluctuations with the stock market. And some people are speculating that another housing crash is going to happen, even though those don't necessarily coincide. So honestly, just tell us how long you've been doing this and what your take is right now on the current situation.
Well, I appreciate it. First, I want to thank you for taking the time to bring me on here, because I look up to you. You do more for me probably, and than you even know. I love, and I talk around the United States, and I always talk about team being, one is your emerging market being so important, two is your team being so important. And I have a lot of teams I work with in different emerging markets, and I don't have the comfort level I have with you guys and the professionalism I have with you. Really, my investors that work with you and own properties, own a decent amount of properties, I've spoken to them, and they're all calm, they're all relaxed. So I want to thank you for all you and your team do. It's just you guys are definitely some unsung heroes right now, because you make a big difference in what's going on in people's heads and the fear factor. So the fear factor is a big problem right now. It's the fear mongering going on. It's the media going on, putting fear out there. It's the politics that are being put into play here is a big issue. But you're right. And one thing I do want to say, and you mentioned it, is the healthcare professionals. The good thing I'm seeing now is people are starting to realize who true heroes are out there. And it is we're not saying actresses, actors, musicians, athletes right now who, they're great entertainers, but the true heroes are the people on the front lines, right? So, and teachers, we had a conversation pre this recording, and teachers, people don't realize how important teachers really are to our youth and ourselves, right? People all of a sudden realize that how hard it is to teach kids that are at home. So you could do.
Yeah, I've unfortunately found that out the hard way. I'm horrible at it. I have no patience whatsoever.
So you could do good, you could do bad, and that kind of is a segue into what I talk about. We do own a lot of properties. We have north of 600 properties. 2/3 of them are seller finance to investors, and 1/3 of them are our own rentals. And all our investors we stay in touch with. I think the important thing to realize here is there's a change in planning, and your planning is how you approve tenants, the type of properties you buy. For instance, we've gotten in front of a lot of our properties and our investors, and I've spoken to property managers I work with in different parts of the country, and I gave them my plan, and I want to know what their plan was, right? Are you going to sit back and you're just going to wait to find that tenants aren't working? The government and the media is putting out there that tenants don't have to pay rent, which is untrue. But here's a plan, and I sat with my team. When I talk about my team, it's people internally, which I don't have a large team anymore, but it's the property managers I work with, the investors I work with. And here's what I told them. I said, first thing is you got to understand what's going on. Second is you need to reach out to your tenants, all your tenants, and you have to be empathetic. The first thing is you need to be empathetic with them, right? They are your lifeline. They're what pays your bills. You need to be empathetic. Yes, I know rents do. You can't just get on the phone and say, screw you, rent's due. That's not how it's going to work. It's not going to go over well. And they're going to wind up suing you anyway. But you need to be empathetic. You need to actually say, I understand what's going on. I'm here for you. You're a family to us. They're going through a lot of scarcity right now. They're going through a lot of pain right now. They're going through hardship right now. And let them know you understand. Okay, we're here to work with you. Especially like for Spartan. I'm sure you guys told all the time, hey, we're still in business. If there's a maintenance issue, we're still here to help. We're still here to collect rents. We're not throwing you in the streets. So it's getting ahead of it, right? And then figuring out what your contingency plan is if they can't pay rent, right? You can't evict them right now anyway, right? And you wouldn't want your property vacant today anyway. So what happens if they can't pay rent? Well, I kind of went through with my property managers I have. I said, let's see how much they can pay. Okay, I don't want you throwing them out. I don't want you telling them rent's due no matter what. I don't want you telling them they don't qualify. How much can you pay? So let's say rent is $1,000 a month and they can only pay $500 right now or next month because they're on unemployment. Okay, well, great. Well, let's work with you. We're going to work with you. For 2 months, let's take the $500. And now we have $500 a month for April and May that you can pay. That's $1,000. And let's put it out for the next 12 months, 10 months, whatever it might be, and get you caught up at that point. That's very important. And then what I did is I sat down with my team and I said, let's come up with all the jobs that we see that are out there right now. They're actually hiring. And there are a lot of jobs hiring. Amazon's hiring. Walmart's hiring. Dollar Tree is hiring. Uber Eats is hiring. Geez, Uber Eats those people are making a ton of money right now. So there are a lot of places hiring, right? So we want to be a service to them. We want to treat them like family. And I'll tell you that because we have property managers in different markets we're in. We're in 4 other markets besides where I live in Delaware. In Delaware, my wife manages the properties here. She does an amazing job. I don't know how she does it. She loves it. They love her. She's the perfect property manager. I just don't know how. I can't do it. She does it. I just don't have the patience she has. But they love her. So I said, Dawn, you need to reach out to every tenant. And this is what we need to say to them. We need to show them that we're here for them. And I'll tell you what, every single tenant we have, except for 2 haven't gotten back to us yet, but they might be out working. Every tenant has thanked us, has said they always felt like we were family. Everything is good, thank God. They could pay the rent. But one of them got back. I still remember one got back, and they said, no matter what I'm going to do, rent is the first thing I'm paying before anything else. And our response to them was on a case-by-case basis. We said, well, let us know if you're having issues. Let us know if you're having difficulties. Talk to us. Communicate. That's the thing. We also, I think before we got on this call, before we started this, we talked about in the last week and a half, I've sold more properties to investors in the last week and a half, in any week and a half period, than I think I sold in the last 2 years in a week and a half period. And what we did is we did things a little different. We started changing our view on how we're going to rent these properties out. Like for instance, I just had on Facebook on our page, we got a property, we closed at the end of February, because I remember I was in North Carolina at the end of February, we closed. We had the property completed in 2 weeks. We didn't do a major rehab, but we made it a hard property, like we talked about, maintenance free. And we're not buying properties that are major overhauls right now because of issues with inspectors. Just time is a killer for us right now. We want to be in and out quick. So we get in, we're not moving crazy walls. We're not doing crazy permits, anything other than like a roof or an HVAC. That's really it. And then it's just flooring, kitchen, baths, that type of thing. And we had it finished in 2 weeks. We did an open house. We set a 3-hour open house, and we had 6 people reply. We set an appointment with each one. It's an open house. They can go through. We sat there. They went through for a half hour each, and we did it from 12 to 3. So at 12 o'clock, one family came through, 12:30. It's funny, every single one of them showed up. Okay, out of the 6, 4 people were interested. Okay, they filled out applications. We actually took, the person we took is a family that we probably would have never taken in the past because of some issues on their credit. No evictions, but some issues on their credit. Even a criminal issue, nothing crazy like, child sex abuse or anything like that. A drug issue, but we had other tenants that were no criminal issues, a little bit better credit. But the other tenants' jobs were a little risky. One was a barber, okay, and his son was a landscaper. They wanted it. I would have normally taken them because they make good money, but I don't know what's going on. So I took somebody who, the wife was a nurse manager, and the husband was in construction working for the city. So we changed our parameters a little bit, and you have to be flexible, right? There's things we wouldn't take. If it was an eviction in the last 5 years, we're not taking that no matter what. Because that's a lot of times, I shouldn't say all the time, but a lot of times that's character, right? Because I believe if somebody's going to actually go through and sue you and evict you and actually get a judgment against you, it means you didn't just move out, right? You played the game. Because people could be evicted, but they could do it in an honorable manner. So that's how we set this up. So we actually planned and we talked and and I'm pretty confident. Now, time will tell, right? I've already had rents coming in and it's not even April 1st yet. I have mortgage payments.
That's really, that's impressive. That's great.
The other thing I told one of my property managers, I said, why don't we do this? Because the stuff we have in Ohio is very heavy populated with service workers, right, which could be affected. I said, let's just put something out there right now that if they pay rent before the first of the month, we're going to give them a 20% discount.
We did the same thing. I'm no joke. I promise. We didn't even talk about this, right? We did not. I promise.
Can you imagine? This is so cool. That is so, I'm blown away.
We reached out to all of our tenants and we said, hey, if you pay by April 5th, just on time, if you pay by April 5th, $75 off your rent.
And that shows that you really care. That's the difference. Because we're going to come out of this, right? I was a police officer in 9/11. I was a first responder. The world was falling apart. First of all, every 4 years, every presidential election, something happens, the world's falling apart, right? Every year there's some kind of virus. And I'm not taking this lightly. I'm taking this very serious. I have people very close to me. I have somebody very close to me right now sitting in a hospital with intubated with a respirator right now. I'm taking it very serious. But we also have to be careful because the economy and the world cannot shut down because of this. And you have to just be on the forefront of it. You have to be a human being. You have to be a forefront of this. And when the stock market started to get hit a couple of weeks ago, when this happened, everybody was online, fear mongering, putting a fear of God into people in the stock market. And I don't do that either, right? Stock market is going to rebound. This is not anything other than people reacting in fear right now. That's all it is. I don't believe the economy, people that are selling houses for retail right now, right? Because I see people selling houses for retail. They're flying off the shelves right now. Some of them for over asking price. So interest rates are low. People are still looking to buy properties. Investors, more than ever, are scared. And they're like, wow, what if I do lose my job in the future? How am I going to take care of myself? Why not just plan accordingly? Why not build a rental portfolio up and just make sure that we have people in jobs that are going to get paid, or they're essential type of employees? It's buying in the right emerging market, which Birmingham and Huntsville is probably one of the best in my group of emerging markets right now with all the job growth there. The rent to value ratio is phenomenal. The schools, you can buy in decent school districts, low taxes, good infrastructure. There's so much going on there right now, but just plan accordingly, like who you rent to. I know right now government is pretty much, inspections are kind of shut down with Section 8. But you know what? I'm not a big Section 8 person, but Section 8, like a friend of mine says, Section 8 never late. If you had a big Section 8 portfolio right now, you're going to be pretty good, right? So maybe, someone like me who says, I don't want to deal with Section 8 because I didn't need to. Well, if I'm in a service industry where people are hairstylists, barbers, landscapers, those type of jobs that could be laid off, well, then maybe I decide I want to go Section 8. It depends on you. But I also say this, do not do Section 8 unless you have a great property manager. And because that's a business model in itself. And it's not a commercial for Spartan here, but if I was going to do Section 8, it'd probably only be if I manage it or Spartan manage. And I have property managers in different markets, but I've gotten killed with Section 8 in Cleveland and Dayton because the property managers weren't capable of handling Section 8 tenants. So that's really important. Just make sure whoever your property manager is, they can handle the type of properties that you're going to be in, and talk to them, have a conversation, say, this is my fear. And let them explain to you how they adjust for that fear. And I can't believe that you told me that you're doing. People told me I'm crazy. I've had people tell me, it's not my responsibility. I still have to pay my mortgage. I've had all crazy things. Even when I told the property manager that I'm working with, in Tennessee that, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to give everybody a 20% discount if they pay before the first of the month. I want to help them out because people have money, right? They still have money, right? They want to pay the bills that they deem important. In Delaware, where I'm at, they just came out with, the governor came out with, Delaware State Housing Authority came out with a relief act internally in the state where they're going to give up to $1,500 to pay your rent or your mortgage, going right to the landlord. So, help your tenants. If they say, listen, I'm out of work, send them a list of all the places that are hiring. Like, just take the time, right? And I know you guys have a lot more tenants that you manage than most places or most people, but you got an amazing team. Take the time. And I know you're doing this already, but I would, if I was the CEO of Spartan, which you are, I know exactly what you're doing. You guys are family. I've seen how you work. I've been to your events. It's family. There's nobody that feels like an employee in that place. Everyone works together. Everyone works for the greater good. And I'm sure that they're like, hey, what should we do? How do we take care of the tenants? How do we take care of our investors? Rather than, hey, how do we worry about our own pockets? And that's really what you need. That's how you get ahead of this. But please, it's so important not to stop investing right now, because now is the most important time. Buy the right properties, put the right tenants in them, and you're going to flourish in this market. There's going to be a transfer of wealth that's amazing. You're going to flourish in this market.
Yeah, I just honestly couldn't agree more from the working with the tenant standpoint and having the property management company able to work, because if for right now we implemented a rent relief, and so if they have been affected, if our current tenants have been affected by this pandemic, then like by loss of jobs or hours, we send out a survey. If they give us any kind of documentation, we are going to allow them 2 to 3 months to pay back April if that's the month that they're not able to. And then again, if you pay if you're paying from sorry, I lost my train of thought. If you're paying from the the $75 discount. Sorry, I saw your message about the meeting. I got distracted.
We can keep going.
Yeah, no. Jesse fixed it. So thank you, Jesse. But no, I completely agree. And we've already proactively had some investors, which has been fantastic, reach out to us and say, hey, you know what? I'm just not going to collect rent, over the next couple of months, which is phenomenal. So kudos to those investors as well who are worried about our resident base is the one that's mainly affected. As far as service providers, restaurant, hospitality, all of those are the ones that are deeply, deeply impacted. And the stimulus that's getting passed, and that'll continue to help. And people will always need a place to live. That's the biggest thing with rental properties and real estate. And I kind of wanted, if you don't mind, kind of go through what you're seeing from 07, 08, because you've been through the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows.
Sure.
And what you think, like the comparison, because if you're a seasoned real estate investor, you know that the risk right now of going a couple of months maybe without rent, that's no different than the risk of a potential eviction. And or a tree falling on your house and you're having to spend the next couple of months rent to fix that repair. So the risk is still the same. However, we've had some investors reach out and talk about potentially getting cold feet because the interest rates are low. So now would be the time to take advantage of that. But still, they're skeptical because they may go a couple of months without rent. So I just wanted you to kind of talk about what you foresee. And I know it's really hard to give. I've been asked several times to give a prediction, and it's impossible because the situation is changing every hour.
Predictions are definitely dangerous.
Right.
They're doing it just for a comfort level.
Yeah. But maybe just kind of talk about what you're seeing now and then what you saw in 7 and 8 and 9.
Well, it's a great question. And that's exactly why what I do and what I speak about in history, I use history as a lesson for myself and my business. In 2007, 8, 9, I was big in my rentals and seller financing to owners, right? And at that time, that's when they implemented Dodd-Frank and CFPB. And Dodd-Frank made it very, very restrictive to do owner financing, seller financing to owner occupants, right? So I made some changes back then, and I went into seller financing to investors. But the biggest thing is like what you're seeing now, a lot of banks are holding off on their lending. They're putting a pause on it, hard money lenders and banks. If you understand banks, you gotta start working. It's not across the board, because if you listen to social media, people are saying, well, banks are pulling out of rental property financing, right? They're worried. Those are banks that are selling loans to Fannie and Freddie, right? So if you really, nobody's talking about the true facts. They just hear something and they put it out there. In fact, in my group at noon, I'm interviewing a banker who's still doing loans. What you want to do is you might want to start, once again, you do a change. You look for your portfolio lenders, right? People that keep their portfolios in-house, right? That they like those loans and they like you as an investor, right? So your local credit unions possibly. Those are great places, your local banks. They're still lending. A lot of places are still lending. Your non-QM mortgage companies, like your commercial lenders out there, the ones that can't sell these loans to Fannie and Freddie, those are the ones that are on hold right now, right? So here's the thing. When the economy got hit in 2009, my business exploded because banks stopped lending on owner occupants. They stopped doing mortgages. They made it really tough. Subprime went out the window. Those option arms went out the window. The no-doc loans went out the window. So all those deals went out the window, but people still needed housing. They're not moving out and living in the street. So jobs are still out there. I mean, Amazon is hiring a ton more people right now. And the cool thing about Birmingham and Huntsville area is Amazon is a job where people can actually afford to pay rent working there, correct?
Correct, yeah.
They're
$15 to $17 an hour.
That's perfect for that market. And where I'm at, it just doesn't cover it. When rents here are $1,800 to $2,200 a month, $15 an hour doesn't cover that kind of rent. And that's what I talk about emerging markets. So you guys, if anything, you're going to blow up because people are going to want to put their money there. There are jobs in Birmingham. People might not be able to get mortgages because banks will tighten their lending limits a little bit, which means there's a bigger need and more demand for tenants, just like 2009. My rental portfolio, at the time, I ran over a 90% occupancy. My rental portfolio on value of my properties went down less than 5%. We had them appraised back then, less than 5%. Our occupancy rate went higher, okay? Our rents went up. And that's back then is when I decided, hey, the banks weren't going to lend. I was going to start doing seller financing to owners because I'm going to be the bank. If they're not going to lend, I'm going to lend. And then Dodd-Frank came along and said, there's too many unscrupulous people like you that were putting people in mortgages they shouldn't be in. We weren't doing that. We were just bringing people into houses. We didn't have a default rate. We had 0% default on our mortgages. But there were other unscrupulous people, and the government started overregulating. And overregulating, what it did is it hurt people that couldn't buy houses. So then I decided, okay, I'm just going to sell or finance my properties to investors because I didn't have to deal with residential banking laws. And investors had nowhere else to put their money. They wanted to build a portfolio. So right now, investors there's a couple of things. I don't ever say don't worry because you always have to look at everything. But, even if you're playing in the stock market is not going to create you to wealth unless you're willing to take a huge amount of risk that real estate's going to create you. Where else can you put down 20 to 30% of your money, which is going to equal 20 to 30,000 possibly, have somebody else pay off your property that's going to be worth, let's say, 80 to 100,000. Even if the property doesn't go up $1 in 30 years, even if you don't make $1 in rent roll, you're going to get all the tax benefits. You're going to put $20,000 down. They're going to pay down the property over 30 years. Even if the property stays $80 to $100,000 in 30 years, now somebody else paid down that 80 to 100,000 and you own it. With stocks, you don't actually own it. So the fear, and we go through market cycles. Listen, this is not going to be our last market cycle. Hopefully, we're healthy. We're around for a couple more market cycles. But you got to expect about every 10 years you're going to have something. And here's the forefront, right? People that are going through this now, you're going to see a big transfer of wealth. Like I said, you're going to see a lot of people get out of the industry that recently in the last 3, 4, 5 years got in the industry, which is a good thing because we need to get rid of those people because they were doing things unethical. They were cavalier at the way they were doing things, okay? And we need to bring this back to what real estate investing really is for the long term, Okay, so you're going to get back in, and what I recommend people doing is what I always teach in our trainings is reserves. You have to maintain reserves. You cannot go out and make $300 a month on 10 properties at $3,000 and go to Vegas and blow it on black. You can't do that. Maybe red, but not black. No, but in all honesty, you can't do that. You got to plan for reserves, and that was the downfall. That's what I learned, right? And I was, thank God, I was okay, but I was part of that. I was guilty. To be honest, I was guilty of doing that. I was spending money like it was coming out of, just coming out of the sky because it was coming every month. It was like an ATM. I knew it was coming. And I never saved enough for the rainy day. And I was okay. I got through it. But I said in 2009, I said, I'll never do that again. I says, I have a reserve for every property. And I know you could talk to them about reserves and how you do that, and the difference with you guys, what I love about you is almost exact what I do on my own personal properties that I rent out. Is I go through the property and I make it as maintenance free as possible, where, new roof, new HVAC, new hot water, flooring, kitchen, replace pretty much, faucets, fixtures, why I have people that are out there, a tenant moves out, they'll change the toilet seat. If they do that, they won't change the toilet bowl. A toilet bowl to change with my plumber is $180. Why wouldn't I put a brand new toilet bowl? Why wouldn't I put new sink fixtures in there? Because they're going to leak in 6 months anyway. And a tenant is probably not going to tell you, and it's going to cause more damage to the floor and to the vanity and to whatever it is. So you have the mindset that, hey, I'm not going to cheat this. I'm not going to cheat out on this. But in the long run, you're going to be well taken care of because you don't want those issues. Whereas other property managers are, let's put lipstick on a pig. Let's try to suck as much money as we can suck out of this. And then let's hit you with all these maintenance costs to make our money as a property manager. And that's not been your mindset ever. And that's why you guys are doing the way you're doing. So people that are looking to get involved in real estate investing, this is a phenomenal time. And I don't have a dog in the race. You can buy anywhere. I don't make money if you buy or don't buy. It's a phenomenal time. You just have to be smart about where you buy, who you work with as a property manager, and how you maintain the property and what tenants you put in those properties. Okay. Now that's how you protect yourself. And going forward, you always have reserves. Okay, and I know a lot of the investors that work with me do not live off the rental income, which is nice, right? So if you don't have to live off the rental income, it's nice because what they're doing is they're taking that rental income, they're paying down their principal, they're putting it in reserves for retirement, for their kids' college education, for whatever it is. We're very careful on the investors we work with one-on-one. And I know you work with a lot of my investors, right? I bring a lot of my investors and I have no problem referring them over to you guys because I know they're going to be well taken care of. The worst thing in the world is referring an investor and then I get phone calls from them complaining that something's wrong. Now, things do go wrong, but I know all I have to do is put a call into you guys or somebody on your team and you guys take care of it. Nothing's ever 100% foolproof, but anyone that's scared to invest in real estate right now is doing themselves a grave mistake. They're going to regret it in the next 2 to 3 years. I do think there's going to be a lot of short sales coming. I do believe you're going to be getting properties in this vertical, not your retail homes that people are selling. I don't think that's going to get hit. I think that's going to go up because of the interest rates. I don't see that getting hit. But I think in our vertical, you're going to see all these investors that overpaid sellers for their houses that can't close. Those I'm getting this week alone, I saw 4 deals. Wholesalers coming to me that overbid on these properties that can't close now. I had one seller call us back and say someone else was supposed to close, they didn't close. What price can you give me for the house? People that bought properties for overvalue are going to now have short sale issues. Here's a big thing, and this is what people have to realize that are listening to this. If you're hearing stories about you don't have to pay mortgages, you have 3-month deferments, that kind of thing, you got to get on the phone with your bank. And a friend of mine, Matt Marino from Real Estate Recovery Group and Leah Chambers spoke about this yesterday. You got to get on the phone with your bank. And you really got to you got to record the call. You got to ask for a recorded call. You got to write their name down because what they're saying is you don't have to pay this mortgage for 3 months. Here's what happens. If your mortgage is $2,000 a month and you don't have to pay for 3 months, come 3 months from now, they're going to turn around and say, great, now you owe us $6,000. Oh, you can't pay it? Okay, you can put in for a loan modification. Well, now that loan modification goes in your credit. you have interest, you have to do a loan mod, it's almost like going through a short sale. Okay, so you got to make sure they're truly deferring the payments till the end of the mortgage if you need to do that. Okay, there's no credit hit, there's no late fees, there's no interest fees, and it's at the end of your mortgage. But also think about this, right? Instead of taking advantage, because people always look to take advantage, right? Think about this. Now you're asking this bank to defer your payments. This might be the same bank you want to go to get lines of credit or mortgages. And they're going to say, well, you don't manage your portfolio very well. How could we do? We're going to be nervous to deal with you. But if you keep paying your bank and if you keep paying your rents, the character is going to come through and it's going to lead you tenfold. So I think I kind of rambled on about that, but I think right now is the best time in the world. I really do, is to move your money at least, I tell people, get 1 to 3 investment properties a year, and 5 to 10 years, you're going to be so set if you do it right. You don't overspend your money. You're literally going to have over $1 million in net worth. You're probably going to set yourself up with $10,000, $15,000 a month in rental income when you retire. And I think right now we knew this was happening. We knew there was going to be a change in the economy. We knew it was coming. We didn't expect it to be like this, to just implode us in a month. We didn't expect that to happen. But you should have been planning accordingly anyway. And the hardest thing for me is the uncertainty right now with people. I feel for people. I feel for the people that are losing their jobs. I feel for the people who are getting sick. That's the hardest thing for me, is just the uncertainty right now. But am I scared about the economy for us? Not really. I think if you're smart about it, I don't buy into fear mongering. I don't buy into media. I'm one of those who's always said, since I'm a kid, man, I got in trouble for it many times. My father used to say, do something. I said, why? He said, because I said so. That wasn't good enough for me. So that led to me being put in quarantine a lot earlier in life than I should have been. But that's kind of my take on it, back because I've gone through this a couple times, and I went through pretty bad times in 2007 and 2009, and I came out unscathed. And I always tell you, I said, listen, I'm not saying it to impress you. I'm saying it to impress upon you that look at people in the industry who have been in it more than the last few years. And this is what I also love. I love to see people who have lost it all and bounce back, because I want to know how they bounce back, because people do bounce back. And I have a lot of respect for those people, and they have life lessons. Like I'm blessed enough that I didn't lose it all. But I learned a lot from those people. That how did you go bankrupt, lose hundreds of properties or millions of dollars in properties, and bounce back? And that's what you have to look at here. A lot of people are going to put their head in the sand and give up, or they want to invest in real estate, build a portfolio, and all of a sudden they can give up. This is the worst time to give up. It's absolute worst time to give up. It's the time to jump in smart. That's all. Jump in smart. Change your game plan a little bit, right? Whereas maybe you didn't want Section 8 before, but maybe it's a great option now. Set yourself up, or different type of properties, or different property managers. This is the right time to say, I need a team behind me, and talk to that team. Make sure that your property manager has departments who can handle certain things. It's not a one-woman show that, and once again, it's just my accolades for what you guys do and why you guys are so successful, and why you're going to be here for as long as you want to stay here for. And it's probably going to be for a while, because you don't like being a homeschool teacher.
I'm horrible at it. Absolutely horrible. But no, I completely agree. And then just to kind of touch on some of the things that you touched on, is the cash reserve is huge. It's a must for anybody looking to invest in rental properties, for this very reason, for whether it's a pandemic that's shut down the economy instantly, and unemployment has skyrocketed, or it's an eviction, anything like that. You definitely always want to have the cash reserve. And then I'm going to steal this from another video that I saw, was all of these real estate investors that are getting into the game, and they're like, oh man, if I'd have gotten in 2009 or in 2010, if I'd have just, if I would have, coulda, woulda, shoulda kind of mentality. And now would be kind of the opportunity, or here in the next few months, if you've kind of had that mindset of like, oh man, I should have done that in 08, 09, 08. One last thing. So, and I saw this on Facebook, and I just wanted to talk about this as well, as far as there are other companies out there that are hiring and they cannot hire fast enough. And a lot of investors have been asking us, just concerned about the rental payments and what that looks like for the cash flow of their properties. But overall, we track our incoming leads every day, how many people apply, how many showings we have, and that has not slowed down. And I saw on Facebook that you had posted about, the same situation, as far as you're finished a property, it was shown, you still got the security deposit, they e-signed the lease, still moved in. And I agree. So I just want to make sure that we leave the message that it's not all doom and gloom. There are still people that are working and they need housing. And we're not going to, now we're taking proper precautions in that every single one of our properties has like the electronic box, and our leasing agents are parking it at home, talking on the phone, walking people through, through Zoom calls or Skype, that walking them through the properties. So we're making sure that our employees are taken care of, but people still are recruiting, hiring, and need housing. So we can't stop offering that. So I just wanted to agree with your post and your comments earlier, as far as we have not seen a slowdown.
No, I haven't. And I'm getting hit every day with, do you have any I just got off a call before I was on with you for almost an hour with an agency saying they have a bunch of people that need properties right now. They deal with they would deal with displacement for insurance, fires and stuff like that. They have a bunch of people that need properties at this point. So there's not a slowdown. And like I said, I had 6 people come through, and 4 were interested, filled out applications, and we had to choose on one. So other people said, well, keep us informed if you get anything else. They're ready to move. People are ready to move. People still have jobs. People are working from home. It's just, you have to change on how you show it. I mean, generally we would have showed it. We would have done a mass open house and had everybody there at the same time, create excitement. We didn't do that this time. And in fact, now my wife's going there to actually open the door, take the lockbox off, leave the key on the counter and leave. And video walkthrough of the move-in. And then we'll send them the video walkthrough and have them sign off on a paper that said they viewed the walkthrough, everything is so-and-so, or they need any kind of work. Whereas we would have done that in person before. So you just have to change. You have to adapt. If you're adaptable, you're going to do very well. And, it's hard because I do a lot of trainings, obviously, right? And people said, well, in a year ago, you said this. Well, that would have been a year ago, but I adapt, right? I adapt and overcome to situations. And I think that this is an industry now where you could do so much more with. People are being forced. There's no such thing as, I'm not comfortable with technology. You're going to be forced to use technology. And as long as you adapt to the technology and the showings, I have a friend who's a real estate agent. He just sold a house for $8,000 over asking price, 3 days on the market, without ever walking into the house with the person. He actually paid a company to come in and do a drone from the outside all the way, do a full 360-degree video on the inside of the property, sold the house to somebody who actually never even walked in it. Okay, so they have to just adapt. Nobody would have thought of that years ago. And here's a better reason. I mean, I'm sure you're out there right now. You're going to probably get properties from people who haven't been able to close, or in situations now even cheaper, right? The iBuyers have dropped out. The Zillows, the Open Doors, all the iBuyers are dropping out now because they're in it just for that quick little blip on their stock screen, and that's it. If they can't make that blip happen, it doesn't matter, then they're going to be out. And that drove up prices a lot too. So now prices from what we buy properties at, not the values, what we buy them at, because there was this overvalued, sellers were just getting offered a ridiculous amount of money for their properties that they didn't deserve. So the sellers, right, the distressed sellers out there, those are the ones who are going to see properties brought in cheaper, right? So we're going to get properties cheaper, and that's going to help you. And in turn, when you buy them cheaper, you're probably going to bring them over to the investors cheaper. So they're going to do better when that, exactly what you talked about. In that 2009, I wish I would have bought in 2009. This was, I wish I would have bought in 2020 when Spartan gave me a deal that was $10,000 cheaper than I could have got last year, possibly. I don't know. I'm just thinking, that the market's going to rebound, right? We're going to see, take 2020 and come to me 2022 to 23 and watch what happens. There's going to be such a transfer in wealth in the next few years. You're either on the front of it or you're in one of these, I wish I could have, the people with the one side attitudes. I would have done this once kids were out of school, once I retired, once I had the money, whatever it is. So I agree with you. This market is still hot. It's people, if you stay on social media, you're going to see doom and gloom. If you watch the news, you'll see doom and gloom. But if you watch people that are actually taking action and doing the work, I'm busy now from 8 in the morning till 9, 10 o'clock at night right now because we're busy with our business. You guys are busy with your business. These are the people, we're not on the news. And that's the only reason I put stuff on social media, because I'm not here to impress anybody. It's just to impress upon you. And that's why I put the property out there that I did the other day. I showed a screenshot of proof of the electronic security deposit coming in. I showed the dates of when it happened. I mean, so in the height of when everyone's saying you can't do this, I'm showing it can still be done. Okay. And I'm essentially like a couple person show. You guys are way bigger than I am with your team in place. A lot easier for you to do than me. So I have no discomfort at all with continuing to work with you guys. And I know I'm excited for what's going to be the next 2 to 3 years at this point, and I'm excited to, not just for the business, I'm excited to provide an incredible value to homeowners, tenants, right? To give them quality properties. I'm excited to provide a tremendous value to investors who are worried about how they're going to plan for their retirement. That excites me. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing that on Facebook too, because you're right in that the situation is very serious, but there are, other bad alternatives if everything just shuts down. So there are people that are still working, needing housing. And so thank you for sharing that on social media. And anybody out there listening, if you're on Facebook, Dan's page is fantastic. Dan, what's the title of your company page?
It's real important to go there, not my personal, because I'm maxed out. So become a real estate investor with Dan Zitofsky. And it's all free stuff on there we put. So you just got to answer the 3 questions to get in. You'll get in. You'll have access to, we don't sell your emails or anything like that, your email address. But we capped out, the reason we have that page, even so, is we capped out at 5,000 friends that Facebook has, the so-called friends. And we like to put out a ton of content and value in that group. So if you go in that group, that's where we do our interviews. That's where we do everything. All our value gets put in that group. So once again, become a real estate investor with Dan Zitofsky.
Yeah, and it's a great page. And like you said, he puts a lot of very valuable content, videos, just a lot of fact-based information that's very refreshing for social media.
Thank you. We're just starting to finally build.
Book too, right here, Passive to Prosperous on Amazon. You're working from home, so no excuses. You do have time to read.
Or listen. Well, this is
or listen.
Right.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great seeing you.
You too.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.